Hey guys, welcome back to another Gonk Gang video, and today we've got a special video. We're going to be talking about how we did the PQs, that's Preston and Element Games. With me today I've got Martin, and our special guest is going to be Sam. I played him in top 8 in Preston, and he also won Element Games on a technicality, which we might talk about later. But first off, how did everyone find PQs? Because I'm pretty sure it's all our first times at PQs, right?
Yeah, I haven't done one before. We've done big events like the OPE events before, which have similar amount of players, but
Yeah, done the OPE events, but first time really going for like these PQs and also like first time like proper tournaments for any card game for me. So
Yeah, I think that's the same for all of us. I think it's all our first time like card game tournaments because
yeah.
well, I think a lot of the team anyway all used to be miniature players. Only a few of us that play card games, but not like super competitively. So the first PQ we went to was in Preston. It was hosted by Harlequin Games. Turnout was 60 players, which was quite good. Um, and surprisingly, the field was very. I don't know what the word's going to be. Interesting, spread. I don't know. I
It,
feel like
it, it was quite split, right? It
varied.
was it was
yeah,
quite down the middle of like hard control versus aggro, like being a very clear theme.
yeah.
Hmm.
There was so in that whole 60 players at Preston, there was only one card red, and it was you, Sam.
Yep, I was the only card there
You
all
the
day.
only card red. The rest of there was still Django's, Martin took Palpatine, I took
Yeah, green.
Sabine. So it was literally hard control versus aggro. But overall, I think the day went well. Well, for a few of us, and not so much you, Martin. I know.
I had a great time, you know.
You
No,
had
he was the
you had
real
a great
king.
you had a great time. That's okay. But me and Sam actually met each other in top 8. So I went 5-1 in Swiss. You went 5-1. I'm guessing.
I went. Was it 7 or 6 rounds? I can't remember. I
I want
think
to say.
I think I went 5-1. I lost one game, so
Yeah, I think it was.
yeah,
I think it was 6 rounds because I went 5-1 too. So
yeah,
after both of us going 5-1, we then met in top 8, which was funny.
yeah.
We were the only two people who were laughing in top 8. Everyone else was super serious. But Sam actually beat me in that top 8 because I whiff timed the interventions in my for a cause. But
Yep.
he beat me with Cadred Talking Town. So we'll throw it up on screen. You'll get a deck image in front of you. But why Cad Red, Sam? Why, when no one else was playing it, did you decide to stick and do Cad Red?
Yeah, it's a good question. I know that Sabine is very popular in the Northwest slash UK meta, so I think it's a fair meta call to try and play something that can play against it quite well.
Right.
But on the flip side, I can't stand these super hard control decks. I find them, they're long and arduous games. Your head's getting racked all day, and you go into time a lot. So I thought, let's play a mid-rangey style deck with some spiky potential against aggro, but also I've found over the last coming weeks that it plays surprisingly well into these hard control decks, whereas I thought that would be its weakness.
Yeah,
But
I
it's
was
done
gonna say
surprisingly well.
you've played it. Well, I know in Preston you played a double blue Iden, and that game looked
I
like
did.
it looked like it was doing okay to be fair. And then
Yep.
obviously Iden does Iden things, and whatever happens happens.
Yep.
But
Absolutely. I met two boss blues on the way up through Swiss
all
as
right,
well.
yeah,
Managed to beat both of those pretty easily. Just playing the right threats at the right time. And then obviously the Iden Blue, which was the one that knocked me out of top four, just couldn't quite get that last few damage in, which is where the Iden healing really kind of got me. Whereas I
yeah.
guess I didn't quite have that reach with this deck. I couldn't get that last threat to stick.
Hmm. I mean, just looking at your deck, like, is there anything that you thought on the day actually was just MVP of Preston?
Yeah, I mean, definitely against the hard controls, just bringing in those TIE Phantoms at the sideboard. Like, I know it doesn't have Underworld synergy, but just the sheer pressure one can put on early,
Right.
especially because I often lead with like a Crafty Smuggler.
Yep.
I find hard controls drop that perilous position pretty quick just to kill that Crafty, and
Yeah.
then all of a sudden I drop the Phantom and they've just used their best answer. You know what I
So then
mean?
they're
Like
just sitting there,
it's
basically
like it's
waiting.
a free Phantom. It's like 8 damage before they can even start, contesting it. Their space units in the mid game are usually really quite weak.
Hmm.
You're looking at the most that they're playing like an Inferno 4 followed by like an Avenger in the late game.
Yeah, I
So
mean, looking at your list, I tried Cad Red at a store showdown. I want to say it was.
It was JP.
Yeah, it was. It was just play games. Yeah.
Yep.
And I went 2-1, I think, or something like that. And I like the list, but looking at your list, it just looks more refined. For example, you have three Bazines in the main, right?
Yeah.
Some cads were always dumping them in the sideboard. You're also running triple Jabba the Hutt. Some of them were only
Yeah.
running the one, maybe to try and find the searches. So why did you decide on everything being? You basically got everything three of bar now. No Good to Me Dead, which you got two.
Yep.
How come there wasn't any just one ofs in there, or did you just want everything to be found? Are
I,
you looking
I'm
for it?
I'm I'm a super big fan of consistency with my decks. I love like if I think a card's good, I want to try and max out the numbers in my deck because I want to see it more.
Hmm.
Especially in a deck which can rely quite heavily on combos. Obviously, you've got the now there are two of them early game, like trying to pull off that turn two Zuckus or Bosk.
Hmm.
You know, you want to be seeing that consistently. And then also the likes of just playing the right units at the right time. You know, those three crafties on turn one are great in the current meta against all the Django and all the Tark and Town stuff. And then you've also got the triple Bazine, which is a fair point. I know a lot of cads run either like 1, 2, and then some in the sideboard. I've
Yeah,
gone full 3, and I haven't looked back since. Especially like with the likes of McClunky to just really abuse the Bazines. You know,
yeah,
I feel like Bazine is a certain skill. I'm not saying that I'm a god or anything, but like if you know the right card at the right time to play Bazine, it can just be backbreaking.
yeah. I was gonna say because I remember when we played in top eight, we've already played the matchup a couple times at like
Yeah,
locals and stuff, and I specifically changed my deck for the PQs to run two one drops because I was not only afraid of Django, which to be honest wasn't that bad, but I was also afraid of Cad Red, which
yeah,
at Preston is only you. But the whole point of the two one drops was so you couldn't just Crafty Smuggler, Ping, Kill, and then Tarkentown the one drop. I still had a one drop as Sabine to do something off the back of, whether it's like Wing Leader it or just play another drop and constantly just have pressure.
yeah.
So when you mention like Bazine, McClunky, it's so easy to just go, all right, Bazine, take your turn one. And then next turn you just go, okay, McClunky, Bazine, I'll take you like kill whatever's on the board, and then Bazine your next turn as well.
Yeah,
So the
you can
combo
kind of
was
get
very effective.
you can kind of almost get into like a bit of a rhythm with Bazine. I remember a particular game at Element Games in top eight against a Han Green.
Hmm.
And you can kind of play this dance with Cad Tarkin Town where like everyone gives you initiative because they don't want to get Tarkin Town turn one, but
Hmm.
then all of a sudden I start mulliganing for the Bazine.
Yeah.
So like they've kind of given me that out, you know what I mean? And there was this one game where I was just literally I think I played Bazine, the same Bazine, about 3 or 4 times throughout a game between McClunkies and stuff.
Just
And
get Bazine
the
as you
guy
go.
literally said after the game, he's just like, okay, let's just go the next game. You have just stripped my hand completely. Like
That's
I
funny.
got, you get rid of the turn one resupply. That's Hand's best card in Hand Green. You got to get rid of that. And then just as he's about to play his 7 drop, oh, Ewing's gone. At the
Yeah.
right time, it's just crippling.
Is there anything that stands out to you in this list, Martin? For me, it was the Jabber because I like Jabber as a card, but is there anything to you, Martin, that stands apart from Ruthless Raider? Because we know you're a massive Ruthless Raider
Oh,
fan.
I do love my Ruthless Raider,
Ruthless
man. Next
Raider.
set gotta go crazy,
Okay,
okay?
yeah, we know
Well, I
your
was
beard's
wondering,
cooking.
how often did you get the now there are two of them off on the second turn?
So basically, depending on matchup, I would hard mulligan for it. Against the right opponent. I think Dom's seen it many times against him where I've
Hmm.
gone mulligan, just really trying to hard aggressively get either like a cartel spacer, crafty smuggler turn one into now there are two of them into Bosk, just to try and clear those threats super early. Plus, boss
Yep.
sitting on the board is just never a good thing, is it? Like, that threat of that when you play an event effect is
Yeah.
brutal.
I mean,
Um,
especially if you get like Boss down, then McClunky comes in, Bosk's like
oh,
two
it's
damage
horrid.
goes off, then McClunky damage goes off, and then you're also going to do the card ping. It's just board wipe
It
central.
it is. I had a guy at Element Games actually. He said he checked something with the judge when I made a play. I had a Jabber on the board, and I had a Bazine and a Bosk,
Mm.
and he had a home one, and I played McClunky for 0 and managed to clear out home one for 0 cost because I bounced the Bazine back. CAD triggered for 2 damage, so that's up to 5 damage, and then Boss does the last two. And he was like, whoa, 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 is this actually how that works? And I was like, sadly, yes, mate. I'm sorry, I've killed your home one for no resources.
Brutal.
That's brutal.
Yep. So it is absolutely brutal. And the point you bring up about the Jabber, it's definitely a contentious card. I think the
I
2/8
think
stat
it's
line
great.
is beefy. Like, and especially in this ping meta, like he can just eat damage for days.
Also, I
Um,
mean, there was Cadlist like towards the beginning of the PQ season where they were playing Relentless Pursuit and then just capturing stuff under Jabba.
oh,
So
that's a
you'd
great idea.
so you'd literally just have to eat through Jabba or get him to a point where you can, like, if Blue had removal, you'd have to get him to a point where you could just remove the Jabba.
Yep.
But you just Relentless Pursuit him. But again, Relentless Pursuit is one of them cards that disappeared going into like the latter half of the PQs for some reason. It's just whether or not people think it wasn't worth playing anymore or what.
Yeah, it's a card I toyed with a lot actually. I really wanted to fit it into my deck. I think it might be more of a CAD double yellow kind of card. Maybe you
Yeah.
go lean more into that capture theme with Dryad and Voss as your threats, because obviously you don't have access to that Ruthless Raider or the Tarkin Town for the early plays.
Mhm.
But it is definitely a card to consider. Um, Another thing to mention about Jabba is, which I don't think is really spoke about, obviously the 2/8 stat line is annoying to kill for a lot of decks, but even against control, if you put a hotshot blaster on Jabba, a
Yep.
4/8, they
Yes.
can't deal with that. That's a really awkward stat line. You can't take down, you can't fell the dragon. This is an awkward stat line to deal with. Anything that has 4 attack and above 5 health is just perfect against those control decks.
So what I noticed at PQs was a lot of people underestimated the. I wouldn't even call them like wonky plays, so to say, but it was the things like Hotshot and a Jabba, or for me on Sabine, it was Darksaber and R2. Like
Yeah,
there was at least 3-4 games where I'd just go R2, and then they're like, okay, why has he just played R2 on turn 4? That's like, Dark Saber, and then I'll just go, here's another two, like here's a 3 cost unit or a 2 cost unit, and then flip Sabine, and they go, okay, kill Sabine instantly, and next turn it was just Dark Saber R2 or Dark Saber whatever's left. And they got
yeah, I
so
think
confused, and they were like, "Oh, I don't know what I like." Like they couldn't process that I wasn't putting Dark Saber on Sabine. It's the same way that people go, "Oh, it's only Jabba; he's not going to do anything." And you go, okay,
exactly.
hot shot, and I'll kill something. Then it's like,
There
oh,
is
I wasn't expecting that.
there's definitely something to be said for that, like that surprise factor. Like people are so adamant, like you flip Sabine, you stick the dark saber on, but if it's not a good play at the time, don't do it.
Yeah,
But if you throw it on like an R2, especially against the non-yellow deck, which is going to struggle to remove that, like Waylay's
hmm
obviously a huge blowout for that kind of strategy. But throwing it on an R2 when they're not expecting it because they were just so adamant on this Sabine dark saber play because that's the classic, you know what I mean?
yeah,
These plays can really catch people off, and using your cards effectively at the right time is just what sets people apart, I think.
yeah. I think it's great. So this Cad Red made top six. Preston, if I'm not wrong, it was top six, right? Yeah, because you
Uh,
beat me and then
it was top 4.
lost. A top four? Wait,
Yeah, it
yes,
was top 4.
sorry, yeah, it was sorry, top four. So then you didn't make any changes to the list, right? You kept the same list.
So the sideboard did change.
The sideboard changed. So
It
what
did.
changed between there and Element?
So the sideboard originally didn't run the Fang Fighters; it ran 3 Pillage instead.
Okay,
Because I thought that hard control was going to be a harder matchup for me.
right.
And the Pillages did work, but I felt like they kind of didn't ever have a right time to play in the deck. Like,
Yeah,
because if
it
I'm
feels
pillaging,
almost
I
like a
wasn't
waste.
developing a threat, and I'd rather them spend the cards to deal with my threats than me just getting rid of the cards.
Yeah, I, I,
So
I, I feel exactly the same. When I tried Pillage, I feel like if you're trying to play a deck that's trying to always maintain ball presence, or at least try and push a bit of damage, if you're spending 4 on Pillage, you're just sitting there like, I don't do anything now. It's my turn gone.
exactly, it feels like you've almost passed. When you
Yeah.
pillage and like, okay, you might have destroyed their hand, but I feel like I could have done more damage by playing 2 more threats or something like that. You know what I mean?
Mm. So how
So
did you feel, Martin? Quickly before we move to Element, how was your PQ at Preston? Like, how did Palpatine do into the field? Because Sabine and
Well, I was
Cad,
Palpatine green, so look, whenever I found a different Palpatine colour, it was just felt like I just lost. There was nothing I could do because it feels like Palpatine blue has better removal,
hmm
so all my big stuff just gets killed instantly, and then Palpatine yellow is just like, yeah, I'll have that. Give me that
yeah,
then. So that wasn't great. And then I played a Sabine as well, which is never good for green Palpatine. So
because I know like the team took a. It was kind of a good spread because I took Sabine because it's what I know, so I was taking it to a tournament. Martin took double green Pal. Rich took Django, Red. You took Cad Red, Sam. So there's everyone from like locals wise had a nice variety of decks, and like we said, PQ, like the PQ at Preston was very much quick decks, hard control decks. There was barely anything in the middle, and the one that was in the middle was probably yours, Sam. I would say Cad Red is still a very mid-rangey deck, and it
Super
did break.
mid-rangey.
It made top four. So then, if we skip to it, and a week later, we all went down to Element Games in Stockport for what was our final PQ because we were only doing two this season. If I'm not wrong, I want to say it was 90 something players. I can't remember the exact number.
It was quite a lot.
It
They
was
sold more than actually
yeah.
appeared, I think. A lot of people didn't manage to make
Registered
Yeah.
on Melee, I think there was like 102, but I think there was only like 98 playing. It was something like that. I think a
Yeah.
few just didn't actually turn up, but even though they'd actually signed up on Melee like the night
Right.
before or whatever.
So we had I'm just going to say 100. Let's just round it up
Yeah.
to 100. So Element Games down at Stockport had 100 players, and the deck that, on a technicality, won was actually Sam's Cad Red.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if you want to explain the technicality, Sam, on why you technically won, or if you don't want
Yeah,
to talk
yeah.
about it.
No,
we
it's fine. I'll just give a very brief overview. There's no
Go on.
point in like dragging it out, but basically, as it was a very long day. You know, we'd just done 7 rounds of Swiss into top 8, cut, and as I sat down for my last game against a guy which I actually met previously at the Preston PQ, he said to me how he'd already got his flights to Vegas and got his pass for Vegas, and he really, really wanted the day one buy, which you get for winning a PQ. He gets to bypass day one and go straight to the day two Swiss games. And he said basically, I will concede the game to you because I don't really want to play this. It's too late, and I really don't want to gamble it all on this best of 3 because I'm already going to Vegas.
Mhm.
And he said he'd give me all the prizing, but basically he gets the win. And after some deliberation, I'm not planning on going to Vegas unless I get that free ticket from the sectors. So I said, absolutely, mate, you take it, and we'll just call it there. And I did say, do you want a friendly game? He did say no because I don't think he wanted to know the actual outcome. Because let's be honest, he might have been gutted if he found out he'd just given away
Yeah.
a lot of money worth of prizes. But fair play to the guy. He was a very nice guy. So yeah, ultimately he's down as the winner, but it was like a technicality kind of thing.
Yeah. So I mean, it's very, very interesting that this Cad Red somehow managed to just go through the whole field. Like, what was your record on Swiss at the end? Like before
It
top
was
8,
6-1 in Swiss.
6-1 in Swiss. What was the only loss to?
My one loss was round 2 to a Bosque Green.
Boss Green. And if
Yeah,
I'm not wrong, was that the Boss Green that beat me by any chance?
I think
Was
it
it
was
the
the same
same
guy.
guy? Yeah,
Yeah,
it probably was. Which I also lost to him in Preston the week before. So that guy just got it out for us. So if the Boss Green guy watches this,
he's the Gonk Gang sniper.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
Huh.
But what? How did I didn't like? It's got to be. You've got to have a certain line. I'm just looking at it and how this, like, when you look at it, you go, okay, this is like a simple deck to pilot, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Or a somewhat simple deck. But how does one, if someone was to pick this up, how would you go about playing this? Because to pilot it all the way through like a 100 player PQ and then win is pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay. Like, I play Sabine, right? If I see a Sabine like come first, it's like, okay, well, there's only a few lines in Sabine. It's quite simple. But when you see something like Cad Red do well, or you see something like, for example, the in Australia there was the Gar Yellow. That was insane that Gar Yellow won, and I really
Yeah,
wanted
props
like a
to that
break.
guy.
Yeah, like I wanted a breakdown on how he played it because that is a very cool deck, but it can be shut down very quickly. And I feel it's the same with Cad Red. I feel like if you don't get certain things off, you can be just shut down completely. So what were the lines that you were looking for, especially in Elements, since you already had the practice from Preston?
Yeah, so I think a really key part to this deck is the mulligan. I think really knowing if you want to hard go for that now, there are two of them, super high pressure combo. Or if you want to play more fair and go down like I'm going to play reactively with my Tarkin Town turn 1 and then try and go to like a well-statted unit like Boba Fett turn 2 into Forlom Zuckuss kind of style, and playing more like on curve. I think that's a key part of the deck is decide and sit down against your opponent. You know what leader they're on, what base they're on. You can kind of make an educated guess. You see a lot of the same decks now and again. Like Sabine is a common deck, so I know what my hand wants to look like against the Sabine. If I'm going first, I want to get that Bazine out and try and ruin their play. If I'm going second, I want to make sure I'm seeing potentially now there are two of them as well. Or even stuff like going Greedo McClunky even on turn one, or just the classic smuggler into Tarkin Town. So really crafting that opening hand, I find is a key element. And then also, I think one thing that really clicked for me between Preston and Element games for me was against the decks where I'm technically the aggressor, where I'm more of the beatdown, is deciding to not control the board as much as I normally would with this deck because I'm an absolute glutton for value trades. You know, if I see a trade where
Right.
I live in and they die, I'm going for that. But against certain decks, especially these Anakin blues, these hand two blues that I saw, quite a lot more Anakins, I thought, I need to switch it up. I go on the aggressive here.
Yeah.
I'm getting hot blasters early on my crafty smugglers. Boba Fett's not trading; he's going three to base.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to try and finish the
The
game with a
classic three to
giant
base.
Ruthless Raider and a Cab Bane to capture all their Sentinels, kind of thing. That's what I'm going for against certain strategies. So I think it's really knowing your matchups more than anything. That's what I'd probably say. And that's
Right.
just something that comes from playing lots of varied decks. I like to think that the Northwest scene is quite varied, and we do see quite a lot of random decks. Even at just weeklies and stuff. So I've had practice against a lot of the field.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the northwest of England has a lot of variety in decks, especially some like just crazy things that you wouldn't see. Like, I mean, I think Rich was mentioning last week he was playing against a double red Cassianando. I probably haven't even seen that played in front of me. I've seen it online. People probably played it, but I've never seen it in person. Martin, how did you feel? Because I know you took double red Kylo to Element, which is even faster than Sabine at some point. So how did you find the Element? Because I thought Element overall, I forgot to mention, as well, was probably a lot harder of a pool of players. There was a lot more well seasoned players at Element, I'll probably say, than Preston.
A lot of known faces there, I'd say,
Yeah,
like people we'd seen before or had had results.
yeah. So how did it feel taking double red Kylo, Martin? Because I know it was a deck that you've played before and you ruin everyone's life with because you're too good at it. But that's besides the
Ah.
point.
Well, I thought it would be a lot better than it was, and when I first showed up with it, it felt good because the first game was kind of a blowout, right? And I was like, okay, I've got it here. It was against the Quinlan Red,
Okay.
which was a little, unorthodox, I guess. But then when I went into the Han Yellow, which was like one that I thought Kylo had a good matchup into, and then he just smoked me, I was like, okay, something's got on here. And then for the rest of the tournament, yeah, didn't do too well. Got about even score in the end, but I don't know. I had fun, which was the main thing. I think this season wasn't too interested in
I mean,
the hyper competitive.
I'm not gonna lie, you've probably done better than me because my overall record was 2-5. Like I got smoked. I went from 5-1, top 8 in Preston to just absolutely jawing dead and getting blitzed. Which was funny because me and Sam also matched again in Element, and if I did take the game off at Element, he technically wouldn't have won. So do with that information what you will. But
You
yeah,
just helped me to the top, man. You
I
gifted me the
did.
win. It was great.
FFG gave him a free win. No, I'm joking. I'm joking.
Don't listen to him, man. You're done.
Um, you mentioned that you changed your sideboard up, so just a quick look at your sideboard. How impactful was your sideboard during the day? Did you constantly see after every like first game you were swapping stuff in, or was it barely used?
No, I think I pretty much every round I swapped something in. There was some clear choices. Obviously, we talked about the TIE Phantom before, coming in against those decks where I'm the aggressor or they don't have a good answer, especially those like slower decks. I came up against once again a double blue-eyed and managed to beat this one. It wasn't my Bane this time. The TIE Phantoms were instrumental in that again. The exact same thing happened. You play the smuggler, they perilous position, you slam a Phantom, they're like, oh dear, this is a problem. So definitely bringing in the Phantoms against the right matchups. And then the Fang Fighters was actually more of a meta call. I felt like Bosk was going to be quite popular after seeing all those Boss Blues last week, and Bosk was actually quite popular at
Yeah,
Element games.
there was a lot of Bosks at Element.
So the play line with the Disabling Fang Fighter is obviously, like turn one, you play your unit, they drop a price on its head or one of those bounties, and then turn two, you just start the turn, slam down a Disabling Fang Fighter. All of a sudden they can't ping anymore, they're not ramping. It's just a nice bit of hate peaks against them. But it also helps in the Sabine matchup where, although I feel quite comfortable in the Sabine matchup, the one time it always goes wrong is when they get the Dark Saber because I just do not have a clean answer except for no good to me dead.
Hmm.
But that's where the Fangfire can come in and kind of give me that second chance against Sabine if it all went wrong. And the daring raids were new as well. That was once again just to deal with those like early game aggressive decks, maybe even like your Kylo Martin. It could be handy against just pinging off the unit at the right time, controlling the board. And I got a surprising amount of last hits with daring raid as well. I think it
Just
was about
finishing the game.
yeah, about 3 in the whole day. Just like throw a daring raid at their base for game when they weren't expecting it because it's not in my main deck.
Right. I mean, overall, how do you think? How are you happy with the performance of the deck?
Yeah, I think the deck overperformed. If anything, like I said, when I first started playing it, I was kind of just playing it at weeklies and enjoying the deck, and then it kind of became my thing for this kind of like I usually kind of end up going towards one deck towards the end of a season, and
Mhm.
like sticking to it. Like during set two, I went really quite hard into my boss green. This set it was decided to be cad red, and then yeah, I just kind of stuck to it, learned the lines, and then ultimately kind of refined it. It became a very consistent deck for me. As you can see with the card count, tons of threes of, like you said
Mhm.
earlier. I kind of just wanted that consistency. I know what's a good play. Getting the now there are two of them at the right time, or the Ruthless Raiders just back breaking into certain matchups. And as you know, Fall on Zuckus is just if you don't answer that, that could be game.
Yeah. So overall, this is for both Martin and Sam. How did you feel PQs were? Did you think it was, as a player who hasn't been to a, I would say this is a high tier, well, it's the best tier event for Star Wars at the moment. How did you feel going to these? Were you happy with your performances or not? And how was prizing? How were the players? What's it like? Just overall feelings about PQs.
Yeah, go for it, Martin. You start.
Well, I mean, I'd like to say that I'm glad they have so many across the country, right? I feel like that means that so many people can actually go to them, whereas like, these bigger tournaments there's only gonna be like one in the UK and something like that. It kind of feels bad for people who have to travel quite a while.
Hmm.
Costs a lot of money to get like hotels and stuff, but with the PQs, I felt like that was a good middle ground, right? It was pretty competitive and also ease of access for a lot of people, so I was happy with that. But in terms of actual performance and everything, I mean, I didn't do too great this time around, but I still had fun, which I guess is the main thing. So
You never know. Set 4 might be all set, Martin. You already been cooking some spicy stuff, so
never know, man. Big space.
you never know. Big space.
I think
Big
it's fair to
space,
say,
man.
Martin, you took some pet decks anyway. Like like you said, you were taking these decks that they're kind of your spice. You weren't
Yeah.
necessarily playing for the ultimate win. You were playing for what you enjoy, and that's a big part of the game as well.
Cowardly for not bringing Moff Gideon, but at the end of the
I mean,
day,
at the end of
it's
the day, you wear the Boba Red space deck creator. The
oh, I don't know about that.
after Manchester, everyone know who you were, and everyone was playing the deck.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
FFG
But
banned
Oh,
Boba
yeah.
because of you, Martin.
it's actually your
Yeah, I
fault.
remember when they said it on the
It's
stream.
actually your
Yeah.
fault.
And
That's
you know
it.
what? I couldn't thank you more. Congratulations, Martin. Boba is
Thank you, man. Thank you.
gone.
Thank you.
What about you, Sam?
Screw
How
that
did
guy,
you
man.
feel about PQs overall?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, first time really trying it like a competition for a card game. I played card games for years, but never took them even slightly seriously. But they felt like a nice scale. It kind of felt like a step up from the store championships, where you get anywhere between like 10 and 25.
Mhm.
And then like this was like the next level up. You're touching like 100 players here, so it felt like there was something to play for, and like there was a real nice spread of decks and players, and I think overall they were really enjoyable, and I look forward to them kind of coming round each set maybe or each couple of sets, and then obviously leading up into these new announcements from FFG, these sector qualifiers, regional qualifiers, really trying to push the competitive scene of this game. I think it's got quite a bright future for people who want to try and take it more seriously. I think there's still things to work on though. I think we saw with like the prize and the stuff, but they've already started to try and adjust to that, which is great.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, pricing wise, if we can, we probably throw a picture up on what Sam got for his first place at PQs. But I still think there's probably be a bit more of a incentive for players to wanna go to PQs, because I know a lot of
Yeah,
people like. I mean, we're going as like a team, as friends and stuff like that. Like going to a big event, having like the weekend away or whatever, and it's fun. But like Martin was saying, sometimes that spread out that it's like, okay, I have to get like for example, I know at Preston, there's a bunch of guys from Scotland came down, and they said it was like a long journey to get down to Preston. So to do all that and then say you just don't even make I don't know. Let's say you break top 16, right, and all you get is one card. I think there could be a bit more incentive to players from FFG side.
Yeah, I
Well,
completely agree. I think some more prizing to try and support these events would really go a long way, even if it's just additional packs that are sent to the store or that are, kind of or even if there's like PQ promo packs kind of as like
yeah,
a thing or something like that. Just some extra collectibles because if you don't break top 16, you're not even getting a promo. And even when you do, the promo is a little lackluster in terms of its resale value, but not everyone plays for that. I like to collect and keep anyway, so I'm
it
quite
doesn't even
happy
have
with
to
them.
be as crazy as like even if it's just like you get an initiative token, right?
Yeah,
Okay, it's
yeah,
nothing big, but you're getting something extra. Or instead of doing okay, we'll do like the promo cards for top 16. Maybe you spread some love down to like the 64s, which I know they're doing that in sectors because they've already announced that if you're the best player at a certain leader and you top 64 in the sector, you get a showcase of that leader. So if you're the best new gun ray and you come exactly 64th and there's no one above you, you get a new gun ray showcase. So there's already that, but I feel like that could be spread down into other tiers. Even store showdowns, I think there could be more price support for store showdowns
yeah.
because, like you mentioned, if there's only 10 players that turn up and it's only top eight, two players are missing out. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because not
I think
every
they,
store's massive.
I think spreading some love to like the players who come along and really, these numbers, these events thrive on numbers. I think everyone should get rewarded for coming on down and really giving it a good shot, or turning up with their decks and really, supporting the game. I think we could do with a bit more love to everyone. But it feels like they're already starting to correct some of those mistakes, like the
Hmm.
sector qualifiers. We're getting these awesome these alternate art bordered cards which look way better than anything they've done before, and that's
Yeah.
just for playing in the main event. And then day two get an additional one of a different card, so it feels like they're going in the right direction. I think that's the main point.
Because there's also this is the season zero, so there's still a whole thing of every event that you attend or wherever you get points, and the points go whether or not you qualify to Galactics. That's how it's meant to be.
Yeah,
Obviously, in season zero, so they might even do it based on okay, you didn't get enough points to qualify, but X amount of points get you some prize, and so we yet to see that in the future. But we'll move on. Overall, everyone was happy with PQs. Everyone played well. This is one of the better decks I've probably seen this done well is in the CAD red. The I don't think any other variation of CAD probably does as well. So it was nice, Sam, for you to come along and like break it down. One quick thing, actually, before I carry on, is there any questions you've got for me and Martin? Because
that's a great question.
sometimes some people have questions, sometimes you don't. If you don't, it's fine. If you do, it go ahead.
No, no. I mean, I suppose if you want to kind of, you guys are both, we've played at weeklies and played in tournaments. How do you find playing against the deck? What pressure points do you find, and what do you see its weaknesses as, and what do you see its strengths as? It's important to see what other people consider as well, because sometimes you can get a bit lost in the sauce on your own deck. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Well, I'll tell you right now, man. Its weakness is triple lightsaber on Kylo.
Now
So
that'll do it.
yeah, yeah. You
We've seen
didn't
it
think of that
before.
with your deck, man. That's weird.
You just didn't consider it really.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's strange.
definitely we've
That.
seen that matchup though. Like unironically, I played against your Kylo double red. We played like 5 games in a row, and you were beating me quite consistently if you were hitting that lightsaber. And this
Yeah.
this is almost like like I said about Sabine with bringing in the disabling Fang fighter. That's where my deck goes wrong when they build one tall threat that I can't waylay. That's when my deck seems to fall apart. So
So
that's
what
I've
you're
tried to
saying
adjust
is,
to that.
if people play Chirrut into you, you're screwed.
It's over. I will.
Okay.
It's over. Cheer it might come back. That's
There
all
you
I'm
go.
saying.
Turret meta set four.
I don't know. When I was playing like Sabine, I feel like if you don't play the double one cost turn one, you're pretty much not gonna do well. Because I feel like Cad Red has so many ways just to. I mean, even as some simple as like Greedo ping Tarkin Town. All right, your turn one's gone, but then Greedo's still on the board, and if Greedo can't trade something, you can just McClunky do the damage and then do the rest to kill whatever comes out next. So it's like an aggro deck going into you. You always feel like you're behind. But the way that again you can beat this deck is by going wide. So for example, the games I have beat you, it's two turn one drops and then constantly just adding like as many units on the board as possible, and you can't stop all of them. And at
Yeah.
one point, you will just start taking damage from something.
I completely agree. It's kind of like that overload. It's like, okay, I dealt with one of his turn one plays, and then on turn two I'll deal with the other one. But then you've already developed your next threat, and I'm just playing catch up at that point. And unless I get a huge swing play, like I get a fall-on kill into a Zuckus kill, I feel like those games are just they get away from me quite quickly. And because you're the beat down, I can't really switch to trying to kill you because you're going to kill me way faster.
Yeah. Well, I mean, overall, I enjoy PQs. Everyone enjoy PQs. I just want to say thank you, Sam, for coming on, breaking down your deck. Any last
No,
words
thanks
for
for having
anyone?
me. Yeah, don't play blue control. You won't make any
Okay.
friends. Yep. Nah.
Okay.
Yep, I
That's
agree.
interesting.
I
Nah.
approve this message.
Jokes.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
I've
thanks for having
actually,
me, guys.
I've got one last question before we go. Actually, are you going to continue playing CAD in set 4, or are you already starting to pivot into something with what we've seen?
I mean, it's a great question. I've already, obviously, sector qualifiers are fast approaching, which is quite scary. We're going to have like a couple of weeks to adapt to the meta.
Hmm.
So I've already spotted some cards which could make this deck better. If I want to stick to something I know.
Hmm.
But I am worried that if stuff like Poe Dameron or the pilot meta takes off, maybe pinging a pilot that has 7 health for one is not going to be as good as it used to be. Do you know what I mean? Like these
Yeah.
units are about to get taller than wider.
Yeah.
And we've already said that one tall threat can be this deck's problem, except for exactly like, Waylay or Big Cad Bane or No Good to Me Dead. Like I have answers, but I don't have answers to like a 7/8 Falcon with like 3 pilots just chilling in it. You know what I mean? I don't have a plan for the party bus.
Yeah.
So I think the meta is going to evolve so quickly.
Put the power order. It's called power failure in. Get that in.
Power
Now
failure
we're
Roll
could
in.
be a
talking.
cyber.
I mean, Confiscate was already going to be in my sideboard going into this event, but I opted for the Fang Fighter, but maybe it ends up being one or both if that becomes a thing. But I've already cooking up some new decks, so let's see. Let's see where it takes us over the next few weeks, I'd say.
Fair enough. Well, thank you for coming on, Martin. Thank you for being here. I don't know. You're always here, Martin.
Oh
Martin, you
yeah.
can't not be here.
Unfortunately, man, I'm stuck in the
You're,
fucking Gonk Gang mines. There you go. I swore
you,
again,
you.
man. I can't have one beer
Oh,
without
Martin,
like.
you've ruined it. I'm carrying on. I'm carrying on. You can edit that out.
No, it's
Martin's
gonna.
always chained to the desk doing his editing for the Gonk Gang. But yeah, thank you, Sam. Thank you, Martin. Thanks everyone for watching. If you've got anything that you want us to be talking about, playing, any decks that you want to see us, if you want us to bring Sam back on, leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe, do all of that. We'll sort it out. Thank you everyone for watching. Have a good one.
And if you hate him, make sure you say it in the chat, man. How
Don't
shit he
say
is.
that.